The ancient oak table in Mr. Patterson's law office had witnessed countless full readings over the years, but I doubt it had ever seen anything quite like this. My brother Michael, immaculate in his designer suit, was practically bouncing in his leather chair. My sister Diana's diamond bracelet clinked against her wine glass as she smirked across the table. Meanwhile, I sat quietly in my worn jeans and work boots, still dusty from the construction site I'd left an hour ago. "Now that everyone's finally here," Diana said with a pointed look at my attire, "can we get started?" Mr. Patterson adjusted his wire-rimmed glasses and pulled out a thick envelope. Of course, though I must say, Harrison was quite specific about how this reading should proceed. My grandfather Harrison Mills had passed away 2 weeks ago at the age of 86. He'd been a quiet man who spent most of his life tending to his farm and making occasional trips into town to sell his produce. At least that's what everyone thought he did. The truth, as we were about to discover, was far more complicated. "To my beloved grandchildren," Mr. Patterson began reading, "I leave my earthly possessions with the hope that you'll understand the true value of what you receive." Michael straightened his Italian silk tie. Diana took another sip of wine. They'd both been sure that Grandpa's estate would be split evenly between the three of us. After all, that's how these things were usually done in respectable families like ours. "To my grandson Michael, I leave my collection of rare coins and stamps, along with my investment portfolio." Michael's grin widened. Grandpa had been collecting coins and stamps for decades. The collection was worth a small fortune. "To my granddaughter Diana, I leave my house in town, along with all its contents and my savings account at First National Bank." Diana practically purred with satisfaction. The house was in the historic district, recently renovated, and worth well over $1 million. "And to my granddaughter Sophie," I held my breath. Not out of greed, but because I've been the only one who'd actually spent time with Grandpa in his final years. While my siblings were busy building their successful lives in the city, I'd visited him every weekend, helping around the farm and listening to his stories. "I leave my farm, including all 200 acres of land, equipment, and buildings thereon." The silence lasted exactly 3 seconds before Diana burst out laughing. "The farm?" She wiped tears from her eyes, careful not to smudge her perfect makeup. "That worthless plot of dirt? Oh, that's perfect." Michael joined in the laughter. "Well, it suits her, doesn't it? Our little sister, the construction worker, gets the rundown farm." Poetic justice. I sat there, my face burning as Mr. Patterson continued reading. The farm came with one condition. It couldn't be sold for at least 1 year. If I tried to sell it before then, it would be donated to charity. "There's also this," Mr. Patterson said, pulling out a sealed envelope with my name on it. Harrison was very specific that this should be given to Sophie privately. Diana rolled her eyes. Probably instructions on how to milk a cow, though I doubt even that would help make that wasteland profitable. After the reading, I sat in my old truck in the law office parking lot, staring at the envelope. My name was written in Grandpa's distinctive handwriting, each letter carefully formed despite his arthritis. Inside was a single sheet of paper and a strange old key. "My dearest Sophie, by now your brother and sister are probably celebrating their valuable inheritance while mocking yours. Let them laugh. They never understood that true worth isn't always visible on the surface. You were the only one who saw the farm the way I did, not as a burden, but as a legacy. While Michael and Diana visited only when they wanted money or favors, you came because you loved the land itself. There's something you need to find. Start in the north field where the old oak stump sits. Use this key when you find the lock it fits. But be careful. Some secrets are better left buried, and some treasures come with a price. Trust your instincts, little fighter. You'll know what to do when the time comes. All my love, Grandpa Harrison. P.S. Don't dig alone." I read the letter 3 times, my hands shaking slightly. The north field had been fallow for as long as I could remember. Grandpa had never planted there, saying the soil wasn't right for crops. But he'd also never let anyone else work that field, not even during the drought of '95 when the bank had pressured him to sell it. That evening, I drove out to the farm, my farm now. The sun was setting behind the mountains, casting long shadows across the overgrown fields. The old farmhouse needed work. The red paint was peeling, the porch steps creaked ominously, and at least 2 windows would need replacing before winter. But there was something else about the place, something I'd always felt but never quite understood. A kind of energy in the air, especially around the north field. I walked out to the old oak stump, its weathered surface nearly level with the ground after decades of rain and wind. Grandpa used to sit there sometimes, staring out at nothing in particular. But now I wondered, had he been watching something specific all those times? The field itself looked ordinary enough, just an expanse of wild grass and weeds stretching toward the tree line. But as I stood there, watching the last rays of sunlight paint the grass gold, something caught my eye. The ground wasn't quite even. There were subtle variations in the terrain, too regular to be natural. I pulled out my phone and Googled satellite images of the area. The north field looked different from above. There were patterns in the soil, geometric shapes that only became visible from a height. "Don't dig alone," Grandpa had written. But who could I trust? Michael and Diana would never help. They'd probably try to stop me if they knew I was planning to dig up part of their inheritance. Most of my friends from the construction company would ask too many questions. Then I remembered Tom Chen, the archaeology graduate student I'd met while working on the university's new library construction. He'd given me his card, saying to call if I ever needed someone to look at interesting ground formations. I sent him a text with a photo of the satellite image. His response came almost immediately. "Those are man-made patterns. When can I come look?" 2 days later, Tom stood beside me at the oak stump, his expert eyes scanning the field as the morning sun revealed the subtle contours of the land. "These are definitely artificial formations," he said, consulting his tablet. "The pattern suggests some kind of structured underground space. But it's old, probably predates the farm by at least a century." "Can you help me dig?" I asked. "I have my grandfather's permission." I showed him the letter, though not the key. Tom's eyes lit up. "An archaeological investigation on private property with the owner's permission. Do you know how rare that is? When do we start?" We began that afternoon. Tom brought ground-penetrating radar equipment from the university, promising to keep the investigation unofficial for now. The radar revealed a network of underground chambers and tunnels, all centered around a point about 20 feet from the oak stump. As we dug, following Tom's careful guidance, I couldn't help but wonder what we'd find. Had Grandpa known about these tunnels? Was this why he'd never let anyone work this field? And what would we find when we finally found the lock that fit his mysterious key? The sun was setting when our shovels hit something solid. Not rock, metal. We carefully cleared away the soil to reveal what looked like a hatch, about 3 feet square, made of age-darkened steel. "This is incredible," Tom breathed, brushing dirt from the surface. "The construction method suggests late 19th century, but the metallurgy is different. I've never seen anything quite like it." In the center of the hatch was a keyhole. My hand shook slightly as I pulled out Grandpa's key. Before I could insert it, Tom grabbed my wrist. "Wait," he said, his voice tense. "Look at these markings." Around the keyhole were strange symbols, not quite letters, not quite pictures. They formed a circle, and while I couldn't read them, they seemed to be some kind of warning. "We should document this properly," Tom said, reaching for his camera. "These symbols appear to be." I pulled my hand free and inserted the key. It fit perfectly. The last light of day caught the symbols as I turned the key, making them seem to glow for just a moment. There was a click, then a hiss of ancient mechanisms coming to life. The hatch swung open, revealing a set of steel stairs descending into darkness. Tom shone his flashlight down, revealing walls lined with more symbols. The air that drifted up was cool and dry, carrying a strange metallic scent. "Sophie," he said quietly, "I don't think this is a normal archaeological site." I thought about Grandpa's letter, his warning that some secrets are better left buried, that some treasures come with a price. But I also thought about how he'd chosen me for this, not my successful siblings. He trusted me with whatever lay below. "Are you coming?" I asked Tom, pulling out my own flashlight. He hesitated, then nodded. "Just be careful. Something about those symbols." We descended into the darkness, our flashlight beams bouncing off the metal walls. The stairs seemed to go on forever, spiraling deeper underground. Finally, we reached another door. This one was different, made of what looked like copper but didn't show any sign of age or corrosion. Another keyhole waited, surrounded by more mysterious symbols. I reached for the key, but Tom caught my hand again. "Sophie, wait. I can read some of these symbols now. They're a variation of an ancient script, and they're trying to warn us about something." "What do they say?" He squinted at the markings. It's not exact, but beyond this door lies power beyond measure. But beware. What sleeps below must stay below. I looked at the key in my hand, thinking about Grandpa's words. Some secrets are better left buried, some treasures come with a price. But I come too far to turn back now. I inserted the key into the lock, and everything changed. The moment I turned the key, a deep rumbling vibrated through the tunnel. Ancient gears ground against each other somewhere within the walls. The copper door swung open with a rush of pressurized air, revealing a sight that stopped my heart. We stood at the entrance to a vast chamber, easily the size of a football field. Our flashlight beams seemed pathetically inadequate against such darkness, but they revealed enough to leave us speechless. The walls were covered in the same strange symbols, but these glowed with a faint bluish light. Rows of metal containers lined the chamber, each one about the size of a car, sealed with the same corrosion-resistant material as the door. "This is impossible," Tom whispered. "This kind of metallurgy, these preservation techniques, they're centuries ahead of their time." In the center of the chamber stood a pedestal with what looked like a journal. Unlike everything else in the room, this was familiar. It was Grandpa's notebook, the one he'd always carried in his pocket. My hands trembled as I picked it up and began to read. "To whoever finds this, though I pray it will be you, Sophie, what you've discovered is more than just a secret. It's a responsibility. In 1872, my grandfather, Thomas Mills, was plowing this field when he discovered something extraordinary. A crashed vessel, not from any nation on Earth. Inside, he found technology beyond imagination and materials that defied the laws of physics as we understood them. But he also found a warning, translated over years of study. These containers hold power beyond measure, power that humanity isn't ready for." My grandfather made a choice. Instead of revealing his discovery, he built this chamber to protect it. He used the smallest fragments of the technology he found to construct these walls. This preservation system to ensure nothing would decay or be discovered accidentally. For 5 generations, our family has protected this secret. The farm wasn't just a cover. It was a guardian, keeping people away from what lies beneath. The worthless north field that never grew crops. The soil is deliberately saturated with trace elements that prevent scanning equipment from detecting what's below. Each generation, one person is chosen to continue this legacy. I chose you, Sophie, because you understand something your siblings never could, that true value isn't measured in dollars, and that some responsibilities are worth more than riches. The choice is yours now. Within these containers is technology that could revolutionize human civilization, or destroy it. Clean energy, medical advances, weapons that could level continents. Humanity will discover these things eventually, but are we ready for them now? Whatever you decide, remember, this isn't just about our family anymore. It's about protecting the future itself. Love, Grandpa Harrison. I looked up from the journal to find Tom staring at one of the containers, his archaeological training warring with raw curiosity. "Sophie," he said slowly, "do you realize what this means? This could rewrite human history. The academic papers alone." "No," I cut him off. "This stays buried." He turned to me, his expression a mix of shock and disappointment. "You can't be serious. This is the greatest discovery in human history, and that's exactly why it needs to stay hidden." I held up the journal. "My family has protected this secret for 5 generations. They understood that some discoveries need to wait until we're ready for them." "But, Tom," I said firmly, "what do you think would happen if the world found out about this? How long before governments started fighting over it? How many corporations would kill to get their hands on this technology?" He was silent for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "So what do we do?" "We walk away, fill in the entrance, make sure no one else finds it." "Just like that?" I thought about Michael and Diana, so sure they'd receive the valuable inheritance. About how they'd laughed at my worthless farm. Just like that. We spent the next week carefully erasing all signs of our dig. Tom helped me design a new irrigation system for the north field, one that would further mask any unusual readings from the ground below. He understood now why this had to stay secret, though I sometimes caught him staring at the field with a mix of wonder and regret. A month later, Diana and Michael visited, presumably to gloat about their inheritances. "Still trying to grow something in this wasteland?" Diana asked, wrinkling her nose at my muddy boots. "Actually," I said, "I'm doing quite well." Michael snorted. Right, because there's so much money in organic farming these days. I just smiled, thinking of the real treasure they'd never know about. Some things are worth more than money. Speaking of money, Diana said, examining her manicure, we've been talking. That developer who wanted to buy the whole property last year, he's still interested. We could split the profits. No, I didn't even let her finish. The farm's not for sale. Not now, not ever. Don't be stupid, Michael snapped. This place is worthless. I looked out over the north field, where generations of my family had kept their sacred trust, where impossible things lay sleeping beneath rich soil and carefully planted cover crops. You're wrong, I said quietly. This land is priceless. You just can't see its true value. After they left, I walked out to the old oak stump and sat down, watching the sun set over my not-so-worthless farm. I pulled out Grandpa's journal and added my own entry. The secret is safe. The farm will stay in the family. And someday, when humanity is ready, when we've grown wise enough to handle such power responsibly, maybe my own grandchild will make a different choice. But for now, I guard what sleeps below, protecting the future from itself. And every time my siblings mock my worthless inheritance, I smile, knowing that I received something far more valuable than money. I received trust, responsibility, and the chance to be part of something greater than myself. I closed the journal and looked out over the darkening field. Somewhere far below, ancient mechanisms hummed silently, preserving their secrets until the right time came. The following week, I received a letter from Mr. Patterson. Michael and Diana were contesting the will, claiming Grandpa hadn't been of sound mind when he wrote it. I wasn't worried. The will would stand. Grandpa had made sure of that. And even if they somehow won, they'd never find what really mattered. The farm's true value wasn't in its deed, or its crops, or even the strange technology hidden beneath. Its value was in its purpose and the sacred trust passed down through generations. I was just its latest guardian, protecting humanity from power it wasn't ready to handle. Each morning now, I wake before dawn and walk out to the north field. I check the irrigation systems that help hide what lies below. I maintain the carefully designed patterns of crops that deflect attention from certain areas. And I smile, knowing that my worthless inheritance is actually the most valuable thing any of us received. Sometimes on quiet nights, I sit on the old oak stump and wonder what future generation will finally open those containers below. Will they use that power wisely? Will they thank us for waiting, for giving humanity time to mature? But for now, I'm content being the farmer with the worthless land. Let my siblings laugh. Let developers make offers. Let the world think this is just another struggling small farm. I know the truth. And somewhere, I think Grandpa is smiling, knowing he chose the right person to protect his extraordinary secret.